don't give up, because anything is possible. You know, you can get in Liz Teller's party with a pair of pants if you want to. I think it is finding my space between perfection and freedom. Realised that some of the trauma I experienced in relation to my dad when I was a kid has had a much, much bigger effect on me than what I originally thought. He died in 2015. I didn't really label him as such till after he died, but he was an alcoholic. My home life was very unpredictable. We didn't know whether one minute he would be really happy and the next minute he would be vicious for no reason. My mum and dad divorced when I was about 12. He tried to commit suicide not long before that. From my perspective, from that age, I was doing it on my own, and I've kind of been doing that ever since. And I used to blag my way into all the parties, like Liz Taylor's party, Channel 4 party, there was always ways of doing it. Now this is a really good thing to teach your staff, right? Anybody teaching staff. Being a single parent is a very, very isolating and hard place to be. You don't see the thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are working really hard, often with very little support, because I think I knew very, very, very early on that
thinking about content creating, thinking about setting up that YouTube channel, what advice would you give to them?
Okay, so
I'm on a mission to help the world to see success differently. We're sharing the stories of our guests. I hope to inspire those that listen. This is the Different Hats podcast, produced by H2 Productions. I hope you can join us on this journey. Okay, I'm just going to say something about one of our sponsors, Riverval. The world of cars, vans and minibuses is often a pain point for many of us. The hassle of finding the right vehicle, let alone looking after it, are all more things to add to our lists as busy people. Riverval's mission is to make motoring manageable, and that's why they provide leasing, purchasing, servicing and vehicle management. So whether you have one family car or a fleet of vans for your business, Riverval are your trusted vehicle supplier. Visit www.riverval.co.uk. Okay, let's jump back to the podcast. Okay, welcome to another episode of the podcast. Here with the fashion superstar that is Michelle Barrett. Michelle, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm so excited about this.
I know, I am too. I feel privileged.
Not listen, I'm the one who's privileged. It's great. And it's so, we were talking just before we come online, right, about when we first met and that, and
yeah.
you know, you've done some stuff in the magazine, and
Yeah.
to see your journey and what you've done is blown me away. So inspiring, honestly. And I know it's been hard work, which we will obviously delve into.
Yeah.
But sitting, I guess, look, we're gonna jump straight in as we always do, and I want to start how we do, especially where you are sitting right now. Where talk to me, how do you define success?
So for me, I think it is finding my space between perfection and freedom.
Oh, I love that. Love that.
So I think because of my childhood and because of sort of maybe my relationship with my dad, for the first part of my career, I was chasing perfection and the highest kind of thing that I could do. So I went into TV because that's something that's very aspirational. It's something everybody wants. It's very competitive and all that. But then in the last sort of 5 years or so, I realised it didn't go with my personality. It didn't go with who I was. So now I'm more chasing the freedom side.
I love that definition. What? Because I guess we're that striving for perfectionism. Like, I think when we, I don't know whether it comes with experience, with age, whatever it is, but you realise in life that actually nothing's ever perfect. Right? We're not perfect. We're flawed ourselves, and I think but there is that narrative out there that to start something, to do something really well, you've got to be perfect, and actually stripping that back, and when you realise that none of us are,
No.
and life is not like that.
No.
I guess that's quite freeing in itself, that realisation, right?
Yeah, and also it doesn't necessarily give you what you're searching for.
Yeah.
I think I was searching sort of for validation, and sort of for to be looked upon like what I was doing was interesting and that I was valued and all those things, which to a certain extent you do get because you work in TV. People are always interested in that. But the actual job didn't give me any of that. The actual job and the way I was treated sometimes in the industry didn't give me any of that. So it was sort of almost false. It's like when people look for sort of validation in having designer clothes and, covering themselves in all that type of thing. It's not necessarily giving them what they actually need.
Oh, there's so many podcasts that come out recently, and we was talking about this type of thing about how important it is when we're in life to look inward as opposed to, because actually we live in a world and a society where everyone's looking from what the outside, social media, everything is external validation that actually maybe a lot of us crave, but even when we get that, it doesn't give, if you're not fixed who you are here, right? You don't know who you are here. You're not. I guess I talk a lot about we talked a lot about self-love, and if you don't love yourself, then you and find out really who you are, then all the external validation in the world is not going to make, and that's where the whole thing around success, like that, money and all of those things that we believe or we're programmed to think that will give us that joy, happiness, and fulfillment isn't if you're empty here, right?
Yeah, or if you haven't fixed things. Which is literally only been the last, I'm 52 now, it's probably the last 5 years I started to think TV wasn't right for me. And then what's kind of come out of that is I've had a couple of conversations recently where I've realised that some of the trauma I experienced in relation to my dad when I was a kid has had a much, much bigger effect on me than what I originally thought. And a lot of that, me pushing through and being, with working in TV and all that, was me trying to prove, look what I can do. Look, my name's on the TV type of thing. Do you know what I mean? And actually, it means nothing. And so then I'm sort of looking at that in a little bit of detail now. And it was just a little conversation I had on the beach with a friend of mine who works in that area. And I happened to say, I sort of said, some of the things that happened when I was a kid weren't very nice. And I reeled off a couple of the things that had happened. And she sort of turned to me with her mouth open and she said, Michelle, she said, that's proper trauma. And it was the first time in my life, sounds really silly, but it was the first time in my life where I went, oh, maybe it is. So then that in itself has made me think about myself and about why I respond to situations in the way I do, why I don't like conflict, why the TV and film industry wasn't right for me, because I was pursuing something to get my name out there and everything, but I didn't like the stepping on each other's toes bit, putting other people down to get where you want to be and all that. It just wasn't me at all. So I needed to get away from that. But obviously being a single parent, I couldn't just do it in 5 minutes. So it's really interesting because it's like it's all sort of come together at the same time. And that's why I think for me it is between perfection and freedom. It's having that freedom to kind of identify who you are. And what do you really want? Stop thinking about impressing other people or fixing something in that way. What do you want and what works for you? What makes you feel good?
There's something there's so much in that of finding, once you found out who you are, but it's that back to that thing, and it sometimes gets over you, but purpose, right? And we've got to find that purpose. And I talked about it the other day of saying, it's difficult because how do we teach this to the younger generations? You go, like, what is it? Because a lot of the people that come on here have spoke to me where they've maybe got to that point in their lives. What happens when you go back to our 20s and we look at ourselves then? Are we looking for purpose? Doesn't mean as much then. You just want to go and do X, Y, and Z. But like just knowing what I know now and the people who've sat opposite me and I've spoke to, and you just go, like, all of the accolades, achievements, material stuff is not gonna. It's not gonna give you. But I'm a bit interested. What do you think of this? Someone said to me, but is it that in your early stages we need that and achieve those things to make you go and achieve what we do, and it's only in hindsight later you can step back because you've done something in your life. Is that?
I think to some extent that's true, particularly when it comes to identity. I think the reason why you kind of grab everything is because you're looking for identity as well, and whether you find it right or not. I mean, me working with clothes, that's a big part of someone's identity. So sometimes people do it with clothes. They spend a lot of money on clothes. So I think, you do sort of strive, but you're also closer to that kind of, for me, for example, you're also closer to that sort of childhood experience and probably still quite rawly reacting to that. So are you still trying to go, look at me, look at me, look at me, and if you are, then that's not necessarily, but maybe you have to go through that process to sort of realise that. I don't know, but I'm just hoping sort of sometimes with my daughter, with when we have conversations about things, that I say it in a way that sometimes she doesn't want to listen to me because she just doesn't. That's normal. But I hope that I say it in a way that has got that a bit of experience in relating without actually sort of making it about me, sort of thing. So sort of giving her a little bit of wisdom. For example, the other day she was talking about a situation and I said, you've always, you have to have your boundaries, and you have to know where your boundaries are, and boundaries in terms of like where you how you relate to other people, like and how they treat you, but then also when you're pushing away situations because they don't feel comfortable but actually they might be quite good for you. I said you have to learn. That's the biggest things, is learning when your boundaries are. So I think it's all a learning curve when you're in your early 20s, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. Well, look, let's you mentioned a little bit then about trauma, because I always like to go like, what do I need to know about Michelle Barrett that's shaped who sits in front of me today?
Yeah. So when I was a kid?
Go back to your childhood and talk. You mentioned a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I grew up in Buckinghamshire, mum and dad. My dad, he died in 2015. I didn't really label him as such till after he died, but he was an alcoholic. That meant that my home life as a kid, and I've only really just started articulating this very, very recently. I've still not really talked to anyone about it. But my home life was very unpredictable. We didn't know whether one minute he would be really happy and the next minute he would be vicious for no reason. And I don't remember very much about my childhood at all. I remember key moments, but it's like my mind's blocked it out. He definitely sort of bullied me in comparison to my sister. I had a sister 2 years younger than me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think she had a walk in the park either, but he definitely targeted me. And when I was 18, I went to my stay with his sister in California, and I was talking to her about it. And she'd only been over about 2 or 3 times in my whole life, and she said that in the time she'd visited us, she'd noticed that he would target me, and she used to have a word with him about it. So it was the first time when I was 18. It's interesting when these sort of things I think tend to come out at that sort of age group. But it really made me realise that, I was validated, because nothing was ever good enough. Whatever I did was never good enough. It was never good enough. I was always in the wrong. I was always the one who was causing the problem. Whatever, if me and my sister were arguing, it was always my fault. It was it was never ever good enough. Nothing was ever good enough. I always felt like the water was there and I was never quite kind of getting to the top of it. And she said that his dad had died 3 weeks before I was born. And she was the first person in my life to actually put something onto it that made me go, oh, maybe that's why. Because he saw me as no replacement, or I came at a time when he was grieving for his dad. And in his head, it was a really confusing time because I was the first child. His dad had died 3 weeks, who he loved a lot. His dad had died 3 weeks before. So there's the only person who's ever been able to put any sort of background to it. But and then when I got to so my mum thought I was going to have a breakdown when I was about 10 or 11. So it was one of the reasons why she divorced my dad, because I'd lost an awful lot of weight. I was tiny. I was like a shell. I can remember just hiding all the time, which seems ironic now when I wear things like I do. I do the complete opposite. But I was completely hiding all the time. And so she divorced him. And I think it was only sort of looking back on it. It was when I was about 9 or 10, I started to draw. So I used to draw portraits, like, like Princess Diana and musicians and stuff like that. And I actually realised I was quite good at it. And I sort of need to get back to doing that, actually, because I still really enjoy it. But I got really good at it. And so then a lot of the families go, oh my God, look at it. I can't believe she's done that. Look at that. So suddenly there was something I was getting attention for, in terms of, and it was creative. And then that then merged into clothes. I would then lay them down on the floor and I would get something in my head, and I still do it now. I get an image in my head of something that I know will work, and I have to put it together. It's like a urge. I have to put it together. So when I used to get that way back, I'd get this image in my head and I'd just find any fabric anywhere, whether it was cutting up clothes, curtains, whatever it was, lay the garment on the floor and literally cut it out by hand, then hand stitch it together and put it on. I used to literally just do it from scratch. And so I think that's how this all started, was because I suddenly had sort of validation for something that I was doing artistic, and that then developed into clothes and my identity and all that. And then I went, I started being who I am today, a little bit expressive with clothes. But for years, I worked as a nanny, I worked in shops and all that, because I didn't think, nobody said to me, go to university. Nobody said to me, you could do design. Nobody said anything to me. And I did think it was just a bit of culture at that time. I don't think it was anything nasty. I remember at my school them saying to me, oh, you'd be a really good secretary. And I was thinking, no, I know I'm never going to be a secretary. Absolutely not. It was like all the boys were mechanics and all the girls were secretaries.
Did they not, like at school, did they not identify that artistic talent then?
I think my art teacher did.
Yeah.
She was great, actually. And I remember me dyeing my hair pink for a ice skating trip, and my form tutor being really angry because we had pink hair, and storming out to tell the head of year, who was also my art teacher. And by the time she came back, the whole class had pink hair because I was with her. And so then so basically, they did, but they didn't. So then, anyway, eventually I did go back and did, I went and did while I was nannying, I went and did a art foundation course, and they said to me, you should do fashion. It wasn't a choice on this art foundation course. And so I created my own end of year project. They let me do it, and then I applied to all these universities and didn't think I would get in because it just wasn't something I thought I could do. And then I applied to LCF, London College of Fashion, just thinking, oh, I'll give it a go, and then I got in, and I was like, oh, okay, now I've got to go to university. And it was everything changed, and I had to give up my job. And by that time I was already living out of home as well, which is another story. I moved out when I was 18.
Was that because of, like, at 18, because of your dad and the way that you felt at that time, or what, or was you just independent, you just wanted to get out?
So my dad had gone, my mum and dad divorced when I was about 12.
Right.
He tried to commit suicide not long before that. I came home from school. I don't know how serious he was, but I came in from school and there was an ambulance outside our house. I was about 11 at the time. And then it was all sort of hushed up and covered up, and it wasn't till afterwards I really found it was cry for help. He sort of called his family in the States. And it was all little things like that, which they're not little. And I remember them being traumatic, and that was one of the things that I mentioned to my friend on the beach, because it was like, and nobody really said a lot about it afterwards. But it's quite a big thing when you come back. And so that was... Anyway, so that was when I was about 11 or 12. And then, but the reason why I moved out when I was 18 was my auntie, so my cousin, I've got two cousins. One was the same age as me, and the boy was 4 years younger than me, and he was 14 at the time. His dad had died when he was 4, and his mum died when he was 14. So I was 18, and his sister had decided to go to university. She'd gone up to Scotland. So he was either going to have to move to our house, which we didn't have any space for him, or he's staying in his own house. And by that point, I was desperate to get out of the village that I lived in, because I found it really claustrophobic and like living in a goldfish bowl, because I just stood out like a sore thumb. And also I thought, well, if I go and live with him, then he can stay in his house. So I did. And I was about 3 months into being 18. I think I was 18, 3 months. I was January, February or something. I moved in with him, and I lived with him for about 8 years. I think it was 6 years, something like that. And I so that he could still live in the house. So then I had a bit of a practice about bringing up a teenager, which I'm now redoing with my own daughter, because there were little things that he did and tried and did, and I'm now sort of going through that again. But and then that was during the time I was working as a nanny, and then I went to university. And then in my third year of university, I then moved up to London because I was at LCF in London. So,
wow, I mean I guess that's a lot of responsibility as well. 18 to take on that response. Did you, like, after your parents split up? Did you still have a good relationship with your dad and your mum, or not?
So my I think what happened from my perspective, and obviously I can only really go from my perspective, but I think what happened was my sister took it worse than I did, because I can remember I must have been about 10 or 11, and I'd phoned up my mum's work and they said, oh, she's not here. And I said, oh, where's she gone? And they said, oh, she's had to go and see somebody. I can't remember what word they use now, like important or something like that. And I knew, don't ask me how I knew, but I knew from them just telling me that they were getting divorced. I didn't know what a solicitor was, but I knew that's what it was about. And so then when I asked her and I said, oh, what was it about? Was it about you and Dad? She admitted it and she said, yeah, it was. And to me, I half expected it. It was sort of relief, if I'm honest. But my sister, it wasn't, because she had a better relationship to a certain extent with my dad. He still behaved the way he did, but he didn't single her out in the way that he singled me out. So she took it really badly. And because she was younger, I think my mum then was more concerned about my sister. Not that she didn't care about me, because she did. She absolutely did. But then I feel like, from my perspective, from that age, I was doing it on my own. And I've kind of been doing that ever since. And that's where I'm saying that it's kind of coming out. That's what I've been doing. So then I was very self-sufficient, shut off. I'm okay. I can do this. Everything's fine. So therefore, my mum was busy, single parent, trying to survive. All that as well. Of course, she was. So then, by the time I got to 18, I found the village very claustrophobic, and I was quite happy to go out. My mum was involved in making sure we were okay at this house. But I was ready to sort of just go off and do it. And I never went back home after that. I didn't know that at that time that I wouldn't, but I never did go back.
Well, I guess, like you say, that forced, but you sort of you're in that situation where you've got to grow up fast, and then I guess from an independent point of view as well. And I'm wondering, I'm just trying to think, again, shape who you are today and where that, but like that drive and determination, and the fact that I'm going to do this, whatever this looks like, on my own.
Yeah.
Like, it's clear from that. That's where that comes from, right?
Yeah.
From that young age.
But I think that the bit that I'm trying to work out now is where I've done it too much. Where I've been like, no, I'm fine. I can do it all. And here I am, a single parent, self-employed. That tells you everything, and I think that is, again, I only just started really looking at it, but that is again where I think the film industry didn't work for me. I was okay when I was running the department, because then it was kind of, I felt in control of my bit. But as soon as I wasn't running the department, I had lots of big ideas about how to do things, which I think, is a bit of the entrepreneurial kind of spirit. But then when that was not taken on, or it was sort of crushed, then it hurt more than it probably did the next person. So then I realised, I didn't really realise at the time, I've only really articulated that literally just now, but I think that was why it didn't work. Whereas now I'm in control of my day and I serve people, and I'm still doing it all on my own.
But there's something like, I think, like my upbringing completely different to that, and yet was still very independent from quite a young age. I moved out fairly young, but I've got, I've just done the 100th episode of my mum and dad there. They're amazing people. They're the nicest people on the planet. Right? And I'm not. But I was always, and what I've recognised, and I think certainly, and again, similar to me, like I've been starting to do a bit of work on myself the last year or so, and you start unpacking some certain things about, as but actually recognising that asking for help is strength, not weakness. And
Yeah,
I think that's the narrative that we tell ourselves when we're quite independent. No, I don't need help. Everything's fine, But you actually not, and actually asking for help is.
That's the bit I'm still trying to get used to.
And but it's a learning thing for all of us, right?
Yeah,
It's
it
a
is.
learning thing
Yeah,
for
it
all
is.
of us. I think it's trying to get, and actually recognising that surrounding yourself with great people and having people around you to support, because we can't. I think although you can achieve so much in your life, and you have done clearly, and what you have done, and we can do a lot on our own. One, that isolation can be quite lonely from a mindset point of view, and actually two, one of the reasons I talk about connection and the reason we're here and all of that, to love and be loved, right? So surrounding yourself and having people on that journey with you is part of the magic of it, and actually I guess trying to tap into that and recognise that I do need help and it's okay to ask for that. And actually when people, like I've changed even this year, like I'm the same as you, I'm fine, everything's fine. And I've done that event, you all right, mate? Because people go, you all right? Yeah. But actually I think even I look back to, I guess, our first encounter, our first conversation at Soho House, and you was really open with me.
Yeah.
That's it. There's obviously a shift. There's been a shift for you, I guess, to a degree.
I was in a bad place at that point. It was really, really hard. And I think because I was still in the film industry, I'd been treated really badly on a job that I'd done, which then had fed into that narrative of you're not good enough, which again isn't good. And I was just desperate to get out of it. But being a single parent, I couldn't just go, oh, well, I'm just not going to do this. I'm going to work on this now. I had to kind of gradually do it. But that's what, actually, you saying that's what I like about what you do. Because whenever I speak to anybody who's starting a business or entrepreneurial or anything, I always say to them, come to these business network events, meet these people, because that was one of the things that kept me going, was talking to people like yourself and others who are in this community, because it makes you realise that when you are trying something, and when you try so many different things, you throw everything, say it, Instagram, for example, when everyone said to me, oh, you should be on Instagram, and I did it and I flogged it like it was a dead horse and it's not moved hardly at all. And it's disheartening, whereas when you're around other people and you know that they're actually successful, but they're still struggling for whatever reason, maybe the economy's hit them hard, and that there is nothing better than that, having that sort of support when you are on that entrepreneurial journey. And I absolutely couldn't have done it without it. Because because you talk to my family, or I talk to my normal friends or something, they're like, oh, yeah, that's nice, and they like it, and they're supportive, but they don't get it.
They don't get it.
So that's a big part of it, is when you have conversations with people and they get, what hat am I going? Excuse the pun, but literally, what hat am I going to wear today?
Yeah, I love. You're so right, and there is so much power in that community.
Yeah, there is.
I mean, look, we're here in Brighton, and it's interesting. I often said on here, like with county business clubs, as we grow, and we go to other counties, what does that look like? Because I don't know how unique, because I've only ever run a business in Brighton, and I don't know how unique, because there's something magical about this community. That we've got some incredible people. And one of the reasons I started this initially was so that we could have these type of conversations, because actually it's fucking hard out there.
Yeah,
whatever
it
business
is.
we're in.
Now it is as well. Right now it is,
more so.
Yeah.
And I think actually sharing, because again, from the outside, when you look from the outside looking in, people would look at, again, like, let's use you as an example, with the 30-odd thousand.
Yeah.
What number are we at a minute?
I think it's nearly, it's 31,500, nearly 30,000 subscribers.
On YouTube, right?
Yeah.
But actually,
what does that mean?
But great luck that, because people look at that as success, and it's a huge success, and that should 100% be celebrated. And coming up to International Women's Day, 100% I want to celebrate it and help you celebrate that and chat about it and tell your story. But people don't always see the struggles leading up to that, right? Actually talking about, one of the reasons I have these conversations is to actually highlight some of those real challenges and some of the mindsets that get people through that stage.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs come from something like that. No, I'm not saying all of them do.
No.
But I think a lot of people do come from something very difficult.
Yeah.
And they're fighters.
Yeah.
And that's why they when you actually talk to people, you do it all the time here, and you realise that there's not a linear story usually. There's usually some sort of emotional event, I think, that triggers people going in a certain direction, particularly out on their own.
And it's not all like, you know. I mean, I'm grateful for obviously you being honest and sharing about, because it's not always trauma, but you know, like you're right. Listening to your story, that is traumatic. Like I've had people who have shared similar and then worse and abuse and them type of things, and you go, you know, and I look at my end of the scale, and I've had no real, I guess, adversity or trauma in that sense, certainly from an upbringing point of view, but we've all got our stories, we've all got our things that we
all
sort
relative.
of navigate. We've got a navigate, but I think actually it's so fascinating to me to learn about people, and certainly, like I say, listening to your story, give more of an understanding for where you are, the type of mindset you've got, and so I guess talk to me again and then about that time in the, because you've obviously then gone to university and then you've got into fashion. How quickly after you come out of university did you get into like TV and fashion, and what happened there?
So I was a little bit naughty, really, but nobody can catch me anymore because it was in sort of 2000, so it doesn't matter. It was 25 years ago and they can't get me now. So anyway, but I was still at university, and there was a woman who I knew who worked quite high up in ITV. I think she was like one of the commissioners at the time, or she was an executive producer. And I got on really well with her. When I was nannying, she had a family opposite, and I just used to sort of chat to her. Anyway, I was at uni. I'd been there for 2 years, and I was in London. I'd moved to London, I think by then, maybe it was in my 3rd year. And I sent her a message, said, "Oh, you about be nice to catch up for lunch or something." Went and met her at ITV. And she said, "What are you doing now?" I said, "Oh, well, I'm doing fashion. You know, I think maybe I want to do sort of something like, I don't quite sure what I want to do at the end." And she went, "Oh my God, I need somebody to help us out on Smash Hits Pole Winners Party and Miss World." This is how long ago it was, 1999.
Smash Hits Pole.
Smash Hits Pole Winners Party with Enrique Iglesias, Westlife and Boyzone, right, over that weekend. So it was 2 proper live shows. Now, I was assisting this other stylist called Alex. I believe he now lives in Brighton and does something else, but I've not seen him since. But anyway, this other stylist called Alex, and we had dancers and we had the band and everything else. And I pretended I knew what I was doing, but I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So I remember someone coming up to me and going, "Hi, I'm the floor manager." And I thought, "What does that mean? You sweep the floor?" I don't know. I haven't got a clue. So I was like, "Oh, great." Anyway, and it was a properly live show. It was at Olympia. One of them was at Olympia. And I remember these dancers going out on the floor. So I'd helped him get some of the stuff together, and I dressed them all and put them out on the floor. And they were these tiny little heels. And we had to put elastic around the back of the shoes so the shoes didn't fall off when they were dancing. And of course, I was expecting disaster, like someone's skirt to fall off or something like that. And I remember standing at the top and looking over at the stage, and the place was full. You know, it was Olympia, so it was full of people, and it was live on TV. And then it was properly live as well. It wasn't like pre-recorded by 15 minutes. It was live. So if anything went wrong, it went wrong, and the whole world would know, and my career would be over before I'd even started. But it didn't. And I got such a buzz that weekend. I thought, right, that's what I want to do. I know that's what I want to do. And then a friend of mine who I was living with, her friend was doing his graduate short film, and he needed someone to do the costume on it. So I went, "Yeah, I'll do it." Again, didn't really know what I was doing, but had a bit of imagination. He had an idea of what he wanted. Got the clothes for it. We did this short film, met a makeup artist on that. And she recommended me for a docudrama with, what was it? Oh God, I can't remember the name of the production company now. Maybe I shouldn't say it. But they're in Kentish Town. And what had happened was their costume designer they'd had before had been booted out because she was rubbish, and they needed a new person. And at that point, all I'd done was this student film, short film. Anyway, I went to meet this woman. I can remember it like it was yesterday. I went to meet this woman. I can remember what her name was as well. And she went, and she said, "Now, bearing in mind, up until this point, I've been cleaning people's houses to get the train fare to get to uni, because I wasn't living at home. So I would clean someone's house to get the train fare to get in. I had an arrangement with the university. Sometimes I'd be in a bit late because I couldn't afford the train because I was coming in from Bucks. Or then even when I was in London, I didn't have loads of money. So I'd not been earning very much at this point, living on student loan. And she said, "I'm really sorry, but it's only £800 a week." And I went, oh, it's okay, yes, that's fine, don't worry. And she went, I said, well, where were you getting the costumes up until now? Because I didn't have a clue where to get them from, but I didn't let her know that. And she went, oh, we've been going to Angels and the BBC. And I went, oh, yeah, of course, no worries, like that. Anyway, ran out of there thinking, I've got to try and find out now where I get the costumes, how I hire them, everything. Haven't got a clue. So I'd met this girl, I think in the pub or something before, who was at my university, and she was studying to design shoes. And I phoned her up and I said, right, can you come with me and help me? Because I need an assistant. We've got to pretend we know what we're doing, right? And it was a drama about Gladstone and Disraeli, so it was Victorian. We had the whole scene with our first scene was the whole of the House of Commons. Okay, so Gladstone, Disraeli, House of Commons, everyone's in Victorian clothes. I did not know what I was doing at all. Anyway, this girl came on board with me. She earned money as well. She was like, yeah, great, I'm there with bells on. And so I was right near the end of my degree at that point. And there was one day they were filming and I couldn't do it because I was graduating, but I didn't want to tell them that I was graduating. So I told them it was a wedding, right? And that was why I couldn't do it. Wow. Anyway, we went up to Manchester and I can remember the first scene. I've got a photo of me somewhere sitting there going, oh my God. I was just at any point I was expecting someone was going to catch me out and realise that I didn't know what I was doing. And we got all these people out and one person had forgotten to take his watch off and someone spotted it and they said, oh, can we take that off? I went, yeah, no, that's no problem. We did that and that was all that went wrong. And we just went, oh my God, I can't believe we've done this. But the way I did it to cover it, because I was so scared of getting caught out, was at the time you could go to the House of Commons and you could go in the House of Commons library and you could actually make an appointment and look at the original books in the House of Commons. So I made an appointment and I went into the House of Commons and I looked at original paintings and photographs, etc., of Disraeli and Gladstone so that I could get it as accurate as possible, because I thought I don't want anything recopied. Go right to the sort of horse's mouth, if you like. And I made loads of notes, and that is what I based it on. So I literally went straight to the House of Commons and sat in there. And this guy like Herman Munster came out with these massive, like, leather-bound books that were huge. They were like, I've never seen books like them since. And that was an experience in itself. So, yeah, and then once I'd done that, I was finishing uni, and then they recommended me to something else, and then I worked with that makeup artist, and that's what triggered it.
Wow. Wow.
I was pretending that it doesn't matter anymore, but
there's a couple of things there for me. Like, you listen to that, the benefits of saying yes to things, right? Saying yes to opportunities, and just believing you're going to do it. A man of people that have sat opposite and have gone, you recognise, you realise in life, because back from the outside, you go, look at all these people doing stuff, and you go, God, they've got all these plans and man of people go, just winging it.
Exactly.
And life is, and it's so refreshing to hear that. And any listeners out there listening to it go, actually, like, yeah, sometimes it is great to have a plan and put them things in place, but other times just go, you know what, I'm going to give it, because I'm such a big believer in going yes to opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Because you could stay in this little comfort zone. I'm at university. I won't say I'll just stay over here. Once I'm qualified, then I'll go and I'll follow this path and do that. You may have never worked in TV. You know what I mean?
I wanted the money as well. I was like, no, I'll do it. I don't care how. I'll just do it and see what happens.
But from a mindset point of view, that's such a brilliant thing, I guess, and even to teach your daughter and for people listening to just go, just give it a go. Just that, like, you'll find a way.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe in yourself, you'll find a way, won't you?
Yeah.
And what a brilliant thing to say as well. Like, I'll find a way to do it. I'm going to actually I'm going to go into the House of Commons. I'm going to find this. I'm going to do. Oh yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing. This is what, and nail it as well, and have that, because it could, like you said, you could have. But what was the worst thing that could have happened with that?
They would have found out that I was at uni, and I'd have said, look, I'll still really try, and they might have said, no, it's not working.
Yeah. And what have you there's an opportunity that's got, but the flip side is it happens what did happen, and you go and you have a 20-year career in TV or whatever.
And then the other thing that I used to do as well, which was really funny. So while I was still at uni, this woman's husband, he was an editor, and he used to go to the Cannes Film Festival every year. And I was like, right, I'm going to go to Cannes, right? I'm going to go to Cannes. And I went in and saw him, and I was like, how do I went online, I tried to find my tickets for Cannes, because it was really early days, internet and all that, and I was like, how do I get my tickets? And he said, well, have you got an invite? And I was like, no. I was like, do you need an invite? And he was like, yeah. I was like, oh, because I was just going to literally just get on a plane and just go, you know.
Brilliant.
Anyway, and he said, all right, let me speak to my mate. So he spoke to a mate of his who's quite a big producer, done some quite big films and stuff like that. And he said to him, you know, can she come out? Can you invite her? And he said, yeah. So this random guy I never met before who's friends with this other guy. And so I just got on a plane, went out to Cannes, met this guy's assistant. They let me stay. They were renting with another production company this huge 8-bedroomed villa, which looked out on the Bay of Cannes, right, with a pool and everything in it. They were renting that for the week. Now, but I didn't realise by the time I'd got there, it had already been going on for a little while. So there was only a few days left, right? But I was just like, I'm in Cannes, I don't care. I was just like, I'll just hang out and go to all the parties and just have a great time and see who I meet. Because I was just like, you just don't know who you're going to meet and whatever's going to happen with it. Anyway, 2 days later, they all left. But this place was paid up till the end of the week. So then, but it was before you could have photos on your phone, right? So then I'm in this 8-bedroom villa by myself with a pool, with a driver that would take you from the town up to the villa each day, whatever. And it was all paid for, right, for the rest of the week. And I was like, how did I just manage to wangle this? So then the following year, I went back again. I just got on a plane and went. I knew how to get the accreditation this time, so I did do that bit. But I was skint. I was absolutely skint. I was student or just graduated, very, very early days, no money. One time I went out there for the week with 80 quid in my pocket, didn't have anywhere to stay. Started talking to somebody who was staying at this place and this hotel was being renovated. So the woman was allowing people to stay there dirt cheap because it was being renovated. So I stayed there and that cost me sort of 25 quid or something. And I used to blag my way into all the parties, like Liz Taylor's party, Channel 4 party. Just, there was always ways of doing it. To the point where my friends bought me a t-shirt which said Blagger across it. And the New Producers Alliance, which was a magazine at the time, interviewed me about blagging your way around Cannes. And it wasn't because I was trying to do it because I was trying to be cheap or because it was just to see how far you could push it. Just to see what would happen from it, you know. And if someone said, no, you ain't got it, you just be like, all right, and okay, you just go to the next place. And it just the excitement of just seeing if you could get away with it. It wasn't...
How old was you?
How old was I? 20... Probably about 27, 28. But I got into, quite a few parties by doing that.
Okay, I just wanted to say something about one of our sponsors, Search 7. They are a search marketing agency for social good. They elevate brands' online exposure locally, nationally and globally through strategic SEO and paid media consultancy. They specialise in many different sectors, including charities, e-commerce, travel, health and medical education, and professional and creative services. They also give agencies and charities the exposure they deserve via their hosted agency and charity events, helping to build community and connections. Their pledge is the inspiration behind their name. Since they started in 2011, they have pledged to give back 7% of their profits to charity. This has become a minimum of 7% each year, with their current fundraising surpassing £150,000 in support of 63 charities. Their latest campaign, #Share177k, aims to raise £177,000 by the end of 2026 to mark their 15th birthday. It's a pleasure to have them as part of the Series 7 of the podcast. I'm delighted. Thanks so much for your support. So 27, 28, and you're then going to all these different parts. But I guess, again, for me, it's something about just putting yourself out there and creating, actually, not just saying yes to opportunities, but creating opportunities for yourself. But you got to be in the right room, right? You got to be in that space to be able to. Yeah,
so I used to hang out in Soho quite a bit as well, and you know, in the really early days, and I would just go for anything. You know, and people would say to me, "You're not going to get that job." I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to go for it anyway and just see what happens. So in the beginning, I think it was quite a lot of fun, you know, and I really enjoyed it. And actually, for a good 20 years, I did really enjoy TV. I worked with some amazing people, friends who will be friends for life, who if I'm honest, if they called me tomorrow, like a few of them have retired and dropped out of it themselves, but if they called me tomorrow and they said, can you come back and do something, I would do my utmost to come and work with them again, you know, because I know they value what I do, I value them as people, and, you know, I absolutely would do it. But then it got to the point where I don't know what started to change. I think the pandemic didn't help. And also, it's renowned for being really, really long hours. The expectations are ridiculous. The changes that can happen way too often. So you're constantly chasing your tail. And it just gets to the point where it's not fun anymore. So, I mean, I did some great things. I had some great opportunities. Like, I guess another highlight was being under the O2 when Katy Perry was going on. And we were all sort of holding hands going out the back, walking under the tunnel, and you can hear 75,000 people above us going, Katy, boom, 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 you know, only these steep feet stamping, you know, that makes you go goosebumpy. And then you walk to the side of the stage and it erupts as they go on. So little things like that, you know, and I'm still friends with one of her backing vocalists now. So things like that were amazing and brilliant experience. And I worked in some great places, you know, like locations and just, that type of thing. So there was a lot of fun in it as well. But there was something, apart from those people that I did connect with, there was something quite sort of disjointed. I think part of the big problem with the TV industry, there's even a Facebook group purely about this, is that nearly everybody's a freelancer, and so therefore everybody's only as good as their last job, and they're all craving to do really, really well. They all want to do really well, so the expectation gets higher and higher and higher, and everyone's trying to meet it. And sometimes those expectations are almost pretty much impossible to actually meet because of changes or budget cuts or time or whatever it is. And so people are constantly chasing their tail. It just makes you so anxious. You're doing sort of 12, 14 hours a day on set, and that's not even including travelling to and backwards and forwards from it. And I don't like that sort of culture where people are sort of feeling like that, whether it be me or someone else, or treating someone else like that because they're tired or they're overworked themselves.
And I guess like you said, you mentioned earlier about, I guess, working for yourself now, but you control it more.
Yeah.
Like, I guess, like you said, with a lot of freelancers, especially within that industry, I guess there's that element of that, like you said, out of your control. Like if things hadn't gone well, bang, you're gone, and quite cutthroat. I'm assuming
it's
within
very
that too.
cutthroat. Yeah, it's very cutthroat, and nobody's even interested. You know, even interested if what they thought happened actually did happen either. They're not interested. They just try and find a quick fix, probably because they're kind of under pressure themselves, you know, to meet deadlines, etc. But it's not it's not an environment I like being in. I don't like seeing I you know, like the last job I did, someone I brought on the job was really struggling, and I hated seeing her really struggling as well. You know, it's just, I just don't like it. It's not nice. So,
and especially with the, like you obviously mentioned Katy Perry there, and there's, you know, numerous famous people that you've worked with over the years. I mean, but what are they like to be around? Like
most people, nearly everybody I've ever worked with has all been fantastic.
Really?
I've not had hardly any, like in terms of public eye, who haven't been, to be honest. I can count on one hand the ones. I probably won't talk about them because it's probably I don't get sued or something. But there's, I can literally, I'll tell you that privately. But I can literally count on one hand the amount of people that have caused problems. There's not very many at all. It really is quite low. So most people, you know, are just like anyone else. They're just trying to do a job, you know.
And well, I guess when you're in the moment, like with them people, was there ever like starstruck, like Katy Perry and people like? Is there ever a start? Or you're just, I'm part of this. Like, I guess you don't have time maybe to think about. Stuff like that.
Well, when I first, this is going to sound really bad, but it was very early on when she just started. So it was only when Katy had just done I Kissed a Girl. So she'd only really just come over here, and we were going to Riverside Studios, which I don't know if you've been to Riverside Studios, but it's a really tiny little studio. So she was doing a shoot there, and literally the audience was God, not a lot bigger than downstairs, you know, not a very big room at all. And it was all on the same level pretty much. So she was pretty much on the same level as the audience. So that's how small it was. She had no entourage or anything. And when my agent at the time called me and said, can you go and work with Katy Perry, I had to Google who it was. I didn't know but then it was really early days.
Yeah, sure.
You know, then gradually over the next 5 years, when she'd come over and I'd get called to go on it again, she got bigger, the entourage got bigger, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where it was really freaky, actually. We were at Hammersmith Apollo, and I was with her makeup artist, who would always work with her as well when we were in whenever she came over here. He was British as well. And we'd gone to take my steamer to the car, right? So we'd come out the back door of the Hammersmith Apollo to walk across. You could walk across the bit to go to the car park to put my steamer in the car. And as we were walking back, now bearing in mind, we'd gone in there with Katie and her band in blacked out windows, because we'd got everyone ready at a hotel, right? So we'd gone in blacked out car with blacked out windows in, and the gate shut, so nobody saw us get out of the car with them or anything. So we're walking up to the door, and there's all these Katie's cats, they would call them, her fans and stuff. We were at the Hammersmith Apollo, and we just dropped my steamer off in the car, and there's all these fans, Katie's fans outside, because it was for Sport Relief or something. Was it Sport Relief? I can't remember anyway. And they're called Katie's cats, so you can tell them because they all had these little ears and all that. Anyway, we're walking past them and we're just kind of chatting. It's just me and him chatting. We didn't have anything on us to identify who we were working with. And one of them starts shouting out my name. Goes, Michelle Barrett, Michelle. And I went, Darren, did you hear that? And he went, yeah. He said, keep going, keep walking, keep where I am. Like that. And we walked in. It was so weird. And the only thing I could think that must have happened was I was friends with some of the the band and the backing singers on Facebook and her assistant, right? And I was wearing the same waistcoat that day as I was wearing in my profile picture on my Facebook page. So somehow I think they'd gone through it and recognised who I was from just being friends with some of the band. That was really freaky. So It just gives you an idea of what it can be like. But yeah, so, you know, things like that were quite good fun. They were really enjoyable.
Do you look back at that bit like that 20 years and the people you have worked with, and like, because I guess, like you said, the people listening and you talk about them stories and share them stories, and people go, God, like the glamorous side of, God, you got to meet these people. But I guess the reality of working on those type of sets not as probably as glamorous as people. What's your?
I mean, it is exciting. It can be exciting, particularly if it's someone who you like working with, and who's like Katie's lovely. She'll go around and say hello to everybody, you know. So yeah, I mean, it can be really exciting. It can be a really good buzz, but it is very busy as well. So I think you're so caught up in literally you hardly eat. You know, you're like running around and eating on the go and all that. So it's a buzz. It's exciting, but it's also full on. It's busy. But I did love it. I did a few different bands. Like I did the dancers for Emily Sandé and Professor Green, and he was great as well. And who else did I do for the Mo? Because I did the Mobos a few years running as well. And I even did Jerry Springer. I looked after Jerry Springer once. Yeah.
What was that like?
He was all right, actually. Bless him. He was very calm and polite. He was very polite to me. I was quite surprised because I think I was expecting somebody who would be a bit brash and a bit maybe rude. I don't know why. I was exposed because he did Jerry Springer show, you know. But he wasn't like that at all. Really? He was actually quite a nice bloke when I worked with him. So so a bit of a contrast there.
Katy Perry, Jerry Springer, yeah. But
Blue Peter, even I did Blue Peter for a little while as well.
Did you get a Blue Peter badge?
I was responsible for giving them out at one point. I was responsible for giving them out. Yeah.
And I guess talk to me about obviously becoming a parent, I guess, as well, and then like with your partner and stuff like that. How did that navigate with you still working within that industry? Did you take a lot of time? What can you?
Yeah, that was really difficult. So I had Lila. We were all going to move down here. Well, we did move down here. She was 4.5 months old, and he decided he didn't want to be here anymore and moved back to London. So I'd been here, 3 weeks at the time? 3 weeks at the time? Yeah, 3-4 weeks at the time. We'd just moved here. And previous to that, I'd been living in North London. So there again, I was using my resources again more than I've ever done in my whole life, I think. So yeah, most of my work was in London. Most of my contacts, friends, everything, my family in Buckinghamshire. And I'm suddenly on the coast with a 4.5-month-old baby. The only person I knew was a health visitor. Literally, I remember going into, now this is a really good thing to teach your staff, right? Anybody teaching staff. I remember going into a restaurant that's no longer there on Church Road, and it was Christmas, and it was one of the first times that my ex had taken my daughter. And if you can imagine, I couldn't do my job. My car had caught fire as well 2 weeks before I moved down here. Literally, we were in the car and the car caught fire. So that was gone as well. So the car was gone. I had to give up my cats. I moved down to the coast. Then my ex leaves me with this baby. And he'd had her that weekend. It was the first weekend he'd had her. And bearing in mind, that's all I'd had for those few months. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anyone, right? And I remember going into one of these restaurants and I just wanted like a cotto formaggi pasta because I was trying to comfort myself because I was lost, really. And this woman, she went, "We haven't got time for that. We haven't got time for that now." And I literally burst into tears. That I will never forget that, because at that moment, I just needed that comfort. And that's where you need to be kind, however stressed you are or whatever's going on. You need to tell people to do it because you don't know what someone's story is. But then on a flip side of that, I was walking down the seafront and this couple walked past me. I was like, "Oh, do you know where?" I think Yellow Wave or something I was looking for because Lila was in the pushchair. And this couple stopped and spoke to me. Now, in that first few months that I lived here, I literally didn't speak to anybody because I didn't know anybody. So the fact that they stopped and spoke to me for 10 or 15 minutes that day, I still see them around now. I've not spoke to them since, but I still see them around now. And that kept me going for a few days, just talking to that couple on the seafront. They went, "Oh yeah, oh, she's lovely, yeah, she's down there and da-da-da." And I never forgot that conversation. And that's why you never know what your interaction is going to do to somebody else, however small it is. And at that point, like my friends in London said to me at the time, move back. And I was like, no, I moved down here because I thought it'd be better for my daughter to grow up. I'm going to give it 2 years. If it doesn't feel like 2 years home after 2 years, I'll move back. And of course, I never went back. But yeah, so doing work was really hard. I've done everything from had over pairs. I massively relied on friends. My mum used to come and stay. My ex's parents would come and stay as well. I saw them, still see them quite a lot. So, balancing it was always really difficult. So the phone would ring and someone would say, "Oh, can you come and do this?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, no problem." Put the phone up. How am I going to do it? I don't know where, it was like a jigsaw puzzle. It was a job to work out where she was going to go and what she was going to do before I'd even got to the actual job. And then when she was at school, it was even harder because then, of course, she had to be here rather than be somewhere else. But I know a lot of people balance that. But when you're balancing it on your own, it's a nightmare. But so, yeah, I just did begged, borrowed and steal from friends. I definitely borrowed a lot more time from friends, and then I didn't go out a lot in the evenings because I didn't think I could then ask people to then babysit for her as well, just for me to go out. I needed that time money, if you like, for when I was actually working, so I'd hardly go out in the evenings. And I can remember years where I just sit there and I just think, "Oh, I really fancy a chocolate bar," but I couldn't walk to the end of the road to go to the shop to go and get a chocolate bar because she was too little. So there's little things like that. That's the hardest. It's being a single parent is a very, very isolating and hard place to be. And it's underestimated. And it is, I know I've spoken to you about this before, funnily enough, the person who I spoke to earlier, I mentioned to you, single parent, and I said, I would like to employ you because I know how hard you work and I know how hard it is for you. And I've always said, and anyone can hold me to this, if I ever get to the point where I'm employing people, they're the first people who I'll employ.
Love that. God, wow. No, I guess it must have been quite lonely at that time, though, huh?
Really lonely. It's really lonely. And the other thing is as well, and I think it might be a bit better now, I don't know, but you're too scared. I was too scared to say to like the health visitor or to anyone like that, oh, I'm not coping. I was coping because I had to get up. I couldn't go, oh, I'm not going to feed this baby today. I had to get up and I had to just carry on. But was I coping? No, I wasn't coping. I had nobody to talk to. Like literally, I didn't even have my car. I couldn't even get in my car, you know. Like it was literally like my life went, right, we're not doing this bit anymore. We're going to put that bit in the bin, the whole lot, and you're going to start again. Here you go, on your own, like that, you know. There was something definitely going on at that time, but I couldn't even come up to my family or anything because I didn't have my car. Eventually, I did get another car, but. So yeah, it's very, very lonely, and I think single parents are, they're vilified in the press. The only other thing you ever see in the press about single parents is all benefit scrounging, loads of kids, want bigger houses, all that. You don't see the thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are working really hard, often with very little support, who are bringing up kids who are doing very well, thank you very much, and you know, you don't hear any of that, and so it's you're up against that, and yeah, and then it's very lonely and very isolating. And I think the difference between me and everyone's story is different, but was my daughter's dad hardly. He saw her maybe about 5 times a year, so I didn't even have that regular every other weekend, you know, which some people have. So I had no structured time that I could go, right, okay, that weekend's mine. I know I can do some stuff for me then, you know. I never really had that. He would usually quite last minute, Carl, can I see her at the weekend? And then by the time that happened, it was too late for me to make plans. So
I suppose, if anything, exhausted as well. Just got a bit of time. I just need to.
Yeah, but yeah. So it's. But I think the biggest thing that I want to say with that is you never know what interaction you're going to have, and just. So I remember very clearly very boring conversations at that time because they were the only conversations that I was having.
But that is such a powerful message, and I think that like 2 things for me taken out of that: the importance, how much we need human connection.
Yeah.
But no matter, and I think, you know, lockdown will highlighted that a lot. Right? We're in that situation where you go, I just like, and I'm a people person, so for me, I just crave it, and I get my. But Kelly always says, I don't know how you do. You could be knackered and tired. You go to an event, you come out, and you're like, because I get my energy from people, because you have that human, like we crave. I think everyone, we need that human connection, and whether that is just a conversation one-on-one, or whether it's being in a crowd, whatever it is, we need something like that. But the second point, which is really for me and for listeners, so important, come from a place of kindness. Always come, because you never ever know what that other
Can I tell you a little story about that, actually?
Please.
It's not. I won't mention his name in case he listens to this. But when I was 17, so I think I was 17, 18, 19, something like that. I can't remember if I'd moved out of home or not, but I was in my little local town in Buckinghamshire, and there was a boy who was 2 years younger than me at school. I didn't know him that well, but I'd sort of gone to something and he was really funny, and I was like, oh, you know, he's really funny. Anyway, it was this night, it was about midnight, 11:30, something like that, and I'd just gone to get some chips, and I'd also smoked. I used to smoke at the time. I haven't got smoked for years and years, but I used to smoke at the time. And me and my friend had got this packet of cigarettes to share, and bought some chips, and I saw this guy, and clearly he was living on the street. Right now, at the time, he must have been about 14, 15. And I was so shocked that this guy, I was like, oh my God, I was like, what? I was like, are you okay? And he was like, he didn't say anything. He just wasn't saying anything. And yet he was one of the funniest, most infectious people I'd ever met previously. And I remember sitting there, and I was young myself. I was like 17. I didn't know what to do in this situation. And I said to my friend, Sarah, at the time, I said, can we just give him everything? Can we just give him the cigarettes and the lighter and the chips and everything? She went, yeah. So I just gave him the whole lot, right? And I just handed it to him. And he just sort of nodded and then walked off, right? And I saw him once, I think it was about a year later, and I didn't properly acknowledge it because I think I was rushing off somewhere, and he'd stopped me and he went, "Oh, I've got somewhere to live now. I've got some," and I was like, "Oh my God, brilliant. I'm so pleased. You know, that's fantastic. You've got somewhere to live. That's amazing." And I had to rush off somewhere. That was in a post office about a year later. About 30 years later, right, this is going to give me goosebumps myself, right? On Blatchington Road in Hove, I'm walking down the road. This really tall, it's making me go goosebumpy now, this really tall guy, I won't describe what he looks like either, really tall but very well-built guy, walks up to me. He went, "Michelle." And I looked at him and I didn't recognise him at all. Okay. And he said, "Michelle, it's da-da-da." And I went, and I still didn't register. And then I said, "Oh, how are you doing?" He said, "I live around the corner. I'm with my wife. I've got my family, blah, blah, blah." And now, look, it's making me go funny now. Now, he recognised me. I would not have recognised him at all. I'm really bad with faces. I'm terrible with faces. But he wanted to tell me 30 years later in a different town in Hove, right? This had happened in Buckinghamshire, so I wouldn't expect to see him in the street, how he was doing. And I've not seen him since, and I really want to sit down with him. I was in so much shock, Sam. I was like, "Oh my God, that was him. That was like I couldn't take it in." But so there you go, right? It's a tiny little thing. And I never forgot it because I think I was so mortified that he was so young and he was living on the streets. And then, but he never forgot it because maybe somebody just acknowledged him. I don't know what, you'd have to ask him. I don't know what it. So yeah, those tiny little interactions can make a huge difference. You don't know what it's going to do for somebody.
I just like listening. What a start! And I guess, look, and we'll never know unless you do end up sitting down and speaking
No, but
to him.
I really wish I was in so much shock. I didn't respond in the way that I want to. I think I was like, that was, and it was almost after we'd walked off, I had the realisation of how big that was. Because I think when he said, "Oh, it's so-and-so," I was like, "Oh yeah," thinking, "Who are you?" It was going through my head. I couldn't, and he was gone before I had a chance to go, "Oh my God, you need to tell me how you've been and what's happened." And
because potentially it could have been, and we don't know. Let's play a hypothetical game in the sense that actually your interaction with him that day, that kindness, that generosity, maybe was the turning point for him to go and. Who knows? And he may have gone and started to turn his life around from that moment. Just
saw him through for enough days to get to where he needed to be.
Exactly. Whatever that looks. Yeah. Because we just don't like, and that's why I'm so adamant. And look, me and you have spoke a little bit about like with social media, especially with since the audience has grown on YouTube, and like trolls and people like saying some mean things. And I love your response that you put on. As an answer to when people are mean, you go like, what? It's going through people's lives where they feel they have to react in that way. They feel they have to be mean. They say horrible things or anything like that.
Because they're unhappy themselves.
Exactly, and I guess we can find pieces with that in ourselves, but it's just the stuff I do, especially within the mental health space and men's mental health and all of that stuff, that wherever we are, whatever we're doing in life, just try and come from a place of kindness.
Yeah. And I don't always get it right.
No,
I don't always get it right.
And none of us do.
I've got it wrong, completely wrong. I hope now, with a bit of maturity, when I do get it wrong, I highlight it and I go, "Do you know what? The reason why I was angry or I was short with you or I did that was because of this." I so take it away from the other person. Yeah. But yeah, you don't know what. It's tiny little conversations, like me just asking for that pasta. See, for me, that was it. That day, I just needed some comfort food, and I was completely lost and I didn't know anybody. And that woman was probably just stressed at work, and it was busy, and she was like, "We ain't got time for that," But I've never forgotten that. That was like 17 years ago. So it was silly.
And the flip side to that is how she could have, like, you could have been sitting here, however many years later, describing that story, and you know what, I walked into this place and she sort of saw me that day.
Yeah.
There's so much about being seen and heard, right?
Yeah.
Like if we just look at someone and actually really, and this is again back to the thing of really listening to someone,
Yeah.
and really seeing them for
Yeah.
who they are and where they are at that time, because we all need something, and whatever that looks like. If you're in a place where you can offer that, like you just don't know. I'm always adamant, like even going into like there was a survey or something done, and I heard someone talk about going into like a supermarket and people on the till and stuff like that, just going, "Oh, hi, how's your day?" Because some people, that is their only interaction, conversation.
Yeah, so their machines are replacing that. Yeah, no, I know it's not good.
And so the machines replaces you're there, and actually, but how many people just go, "Yeah, thanks, yeah," and they just, and I've been guilty of it many times. But now I try and go, "Hi, how are you? How's your day? You had a good day?" And sometimes some people won't respond because they don't want to. They've got that job and they don't like it. They're sitting there and they just go, "Yeah, fine, thanks," and they carry on, no problem. Other people go, "Yeah, I'm really well, thanks. How are you? How's your day? Thanks for," and it could have just made that. And I just think there's something in that. There's that, and then the other side, one of my biggest bugbears is when people are rude to waiters or waitresses.
Oh yeah, no, there's no need for it.
I just can't deal with that. I'm like,
Interestingly, the bus driver on the way over, he was like that. So you got on the bus, and I went to put my card in. He went, "Hi, how are you?" And I went, "Oh, I'm good. How are you?" Anyway, as I went off, he went, "Have a good day," and he said it to everybody. Now I always shout "thank you" as I get off the bus. Anyway, I'm one of them people, but I've not seen a bus driver doing that. So it was interesting because he was doing exactly that.
And I think with the, you know, we talk about AI and what a brilliant tool it is, and it is a brilliant tool, right? And I think it's going to be, and it's an amazing thing that we get. But the more and more, again, the episode not long released was around like how we tap into humanity, like real human connection in an AI world, right? Because AI is replacing more and more things, but it's never going to replace this. Right?
No.
Looking into someone's eyes and listening to them talk and having some form of connection in some way. It can't give you a hug. It can't do them things. Do you know what I mean?
No. And I think people seek that because interestingly, I'm seeing a lot of conversation at the moment around, because of course my YouTube channel is doing quite well, around people making channels that are purely AI. So they've got AI images, AI voiceovers over AI images. But what tends to happen with those videos, they get hits, but then in the comments they get a lot of like, "This is just AI, this is just," you know, and people don't like it. They like the rawness, they like the real person, they like all that stuff. They don't like the, you know, all the whole fully AI thing. So I think people still crave that real kind of interaction.
I think, I mean, it can be a buzzword and it gets overused sometimes, but authenticity is such a. I think whatever we do, and I'll be keen to tap into about the YouTube channel and stuff like that, and where that's got to and stuff. But by you being your authentic self and putting yourself out there and doing that, and how that's sort of.
So I suppose about 5 years ago when I started to get disillusioned with the TV and film industry, and at first I just thought, I think my first thing was like, I'm not good at this, but actually what I now look at it and I think it's not for me, like the way it's structured isn't for me. There were aspects of it which I loved, but there were aspects that I really didn't enjoy, and it was mainly the way people treated each other because they were tired, really, and so I just don't like it. So I'd started to think I wanted to do something online. I wanted an online business because my daughter was getting older. She's 19 now. I was very aware that she's going to be going off and having her own life, and I've spent 18, 19 years bringing her up on my own. So it's like there's going to be a big gap there. So somehow I need to fill that, and I want to fill it in a way which means that I'm not working 14 hours a day in some car park in the middle of nowhere being spoken to like a piece of crap. I don't want that anymore. You know, I want to do something online. So at first I started off with like a idea that it was called Minimising Travel, and I've still got the website up, which I might go back to, but it was about less stuff and more experiences. The whole thing was about, because I honestly believe that, you know, over the last sort of 19 years, I've taken her to 26 countries across the world. We've been all over the world, and people would say to me, oh, oh, are you not worried? And I was like, well, yeah, but either I go or I sit at home worrying about it. So we just go, you know, we go to Morocco, we go to Indonesia, we go to Thailand, we go, you know, wherever. You know, we've done everything. We swam in the Great Barrier Reef, to sleep in a bivouac tent in the middle of the Sahara Desert, and go on a husky ride in Lapland, you know, done like loads of things. And the reason why I done that is because I think I knew very, very, very early on that stuff sort of relates back to earlier, but stuff is never going to make you happy, but experiences are so much more valuable. When I sit there when I'm 110, I'm not going to sit there, because I am going to be 110, I'm not going to sit there going, oh my God, I'm really glad I bought that massive TV. I'm going to look there and go, I made the most of that time. It was difficult and it was hard and I struggled, and we had a TV that was given to me by my dad, we had a cheap car, we had all that. But remember when we did this, or we went to New York, or we went up the Empire State Building, and we did whatever we did. So it started off from that I would do this minimise and travel, which was all about less stuff and more experiences, and concentrating on that because that's the most important thing. Then in the pandemic, everything shut down, work shut down, there was nothing. And I had this little Facebook group which had about 75, 100 paid people in it, something like that, from that minimise and travel. And I thought, oh, I'll sort of combine the two, and I'll do a capsule wardrobe challenge in the Facebook group. So I put this message out and shared it a bit around Facebook, basically saying I was going to do a challenge over 4 weeks where I was going to come on live and I would teach you how to build a capsule wardrobe. Now, a capsule wardrobe, for anybody who doesn't know, is basically, I think it's a collection of clothes that mix and match easily and work for you and your lifestyle. So I don't believe in numbers, I don't believe in 100 items or 30 items or any of that, because everyone's different and lives in different climates and all that. So I put it out there, and then within a week there were 1,000 people in this group expecting this challenge, and I was like, oh shit, I've actually got to do it now. Do you know what I mean? I was like, oh, okay. So then I had to actually plan it out and actually plan these videos and schedule them and everything. And that is the basis really of what I built this business on, because then I realised there was a need there. Now, don't get me wrong, I caught people when they were at home and they had nothing else to do. I think a lot of businesses started off like this, you know. And so then whilst I did that 4-week challenge, I then built a bit on the side of my existing website, which was a membership they could join to get more interaction. Now, at the time, I charged them something like £25 a month or something, and they were basically getting personal styling for £25 a month. It was costing them nothing, and they were getting loads out of it. But what I learnt from that was I learnt the pain points, I learnt the needs, I learnt what they wanted. What I thought they wanted might not have been exactly what they were, what sort of age group they were, what background they come from, what triggered it, and all those type of things. So then I could put that into my messaging to then build the business. So then around within the next year, in between still doing costume work when that picked up, I then built the other website, Capsule Closet Stylist, and had that separate. And then eventually I ended up dropping that membership for a while, and I just created personal styling packages. And then for the next sort of 2.5 years, I was trying to build that up. And I knew from the feedback I was getting from people that they really liked what I was doing, and they liked it when I worked with them, and they appreciated it. And I felt so much more value from that as well, actually helping people genuinely feel better about themselves. And I knew that's the way that I wanted to go. I was getting increasingly down about TV and how I was treated there. So it was like this complete contrast. You know, one place I'm earning decent money, but I'm being treated like rubbish. And one place is kind of building, but I'm not earning enough to sustain it. And yet they really appreciate it. And I meet people all over the world. And so I would do like Instagram, like I say, everyone said, oh, you should try Instagram. Flogged that like a dead dog, didn't do nothing, didn't shift at all. Facebook, pretty much the same. Kind of glad now, considering, but anyway. It's another story that I won't go into. Let's not get political. But so I tried all that. And YouTube, interestingly, always had slightly more comments. And when I say slightly more comments, I might have got one comment on a video, like nothing really. But it was so much effort to make a YouTube video, so I was always reluctant to do it. And also, I didn't feel great on camera. I felt like an absolute tit on camera. And I remember people saying to me, someone who I know who'd done it quite a lot, she said, you just got to carry on doing it. Just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And eventually you'll get used to it. And at the time I was like, oh God, I feel like such a tit. Anyway, then I was still doing costume work in between. I had moments, as you know, we've had that conversation where I was really struggling, had no work in, being a single parent, finding it really hard. I had to go off, only 18 months ago actually, had to go off and work as a carer for a while to get some money in the door. I've done temping work. I was doing anything what I needed to do to just get some money in the door. And then
But still doing the YouTube stuff.
Still doing the YouTube stuff, still doing the clients, still looking for the costume work, although reluctantly looking for the costume work. Trouble is, it would pay the bills. Then I did a costume job at the beginning of last year, and it was one of them where it was just awful again, and I felt so down afterwards and just mortified. But the funny thing was, that finished early. But the funny thing was, I came back home and I could see that my YouTube channel, so you can monetize YouTube eventually, where you earn money off the adverts put on the videos, which are going to get put on there anyway. And I was quite close to getting to the point where I could monetize it. Now, to monetize it, you need to earn at least £60 to be paid each month. So then you get paid by Google. And I thought, well, I'll put out another couple more videos to see if I get over that threshold, because I was close to it. You have to have 1,000 subscribers, and I think it's 400 or 4,000 hours of watch time over a year, and I'm very, very close to that. So I thought I'll put out a couple more videos, and then hopefully it'll take me over that threshold. So if I'd have carried on with that costume job, it would have taken me through to June, right? So I put these videos out beginning of May, and within 2 weeks it took me over the threshold. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, I think I'm going to make my £60 this month, right? And I was only doing it because I thought, well, that's towards the food bill or whatever. And the only reason I was doing YouTube or any of the social media was to direct traffic to my website to get clients. That was purely the bottom reason why I was doing it. And then it kept going up and up and up and up and up. And I was like, oh, okay. So then it went over £1,000 the first month. And I was like, okay, that's significantly more than I thought it was going to be. So then suddenly my attention went, okay, maybe I will take the time to make the YouTube videos now. And so I carried on with it. And I carried on and I carried on and I carried on. And it's consistently gone up. The subscriber count has gone. So I had 1,200 subscribers in May. So May 2024, I had 1,200 subscribers. We're now, beginning of March 25, and I've got 31,300 and something now, or something like that. So it's gone up every single month, and it's gone plateaued a little bit, and then it's gone up again, and I'm learning still what I'm doing. I'm still testing everything. I'm still trying. But fingers crossed, touch wood, for the first time in 25 years, I've managed to spend the whole time since May living off that business. So not only the income that's coming directly from YouTube, but then also the clients that it's brought to me as well, and other opportunities, like I'm working with a web series in America now as well, and some of their clients, doing that later on today actually. So I've just carried on with it, and also then considering haven't quite done very much with it, but another YouTube channel telling people how I did it, so that's like another thing that's I'd like to do, but it's getting the time to do it. So now it's happening, and it directs traffic to my website. YouTube contacted me to ask me to do a boot camp with them, and I did a boot camp. So I've now got a contact at YouTube as well, which is interesting. I didn't think that would happen. And then it peaked at Christmas. I earned a lot from it at Christmas, and it's kind of then gone back into a bit more of an equilibrium again now. But I'm just going to carry on with it and just see what happens. And I just find it so much more rewarding. Generally, it's so much more rewarding.
I just wanted to take a moment to talk about one of our sponsors, Nostos, an authentic experience of Greece right here in the heart of Hove. In a world brimming with dining options, finding that one place that captivates your palate and heart isn't always easy. It's about more than food. It's the stories, the ambience, the slice of another world. This is the essence of Nostos, an award-winning Greek restaurant. With traditional recipes passed down through generations, each dish promises a story and a piece of heritage. And Nostos is more than just a restaurant, it's a community contributor. Each dining experience supports initiatives close to their heart, from local charities to cultural events, enriching Brighton and Hove's social fabric. They also provide catering services, bringing Greek cuisine to your personal events. For a taste of Greece without leaving town, visit nostos-hove.co.uk. And when you do go, say Sam recommended the feta nests. Oh my God, they are amazing.
It's just, honestly, it's one of them. Like I said, because I can go back to that. I can go back to that time having that coffee at Soho House, and almost it'd be unfair to say broken, but you seemed like you was just like, I really want to do this, but I can't.
Yeah.
You know, I need to pay some bills. I've got to do that, and then even over that period, and I think we've done. I'm probably going back a couple of years, because that was the last time when you done the International Women's Day feature. Then a couple of years ago, and then
I appreciated that, by the way. Yeah, it was big. Things like that meant so much.
Yeah, but I get it was. I think that. You know, I'm such a believer in just connecting with people, and you end up. We just had a connection. I loved what you was trying to do, and it's so. And then it was really inspired. Like we talked about this about single parent and like the struggles that you'd had to get there. And it was just, I found it really inspiring then. And we was talking about it. But I can't tell you. I cannot tell you. So there was a thing the other day, and I posted it over the weekend, and it was about success. Funny enough, I'll talk about that a fair bit. But it was talking about success, and it was from a podcast by the Path of a Swami, so he's from a monk, and he talked about success, and he said 3 really, really key things to success and to feel successful, and one of them was being happy for other people's success. Genuinely. Like when you told me that it blown up, I cannot, like the joy for me. Like, I'm on YouTube and I've got like 2 subscribers, and but you know, when you just genuine joy. So that, loving what you do, and then helping other people to be successful, and actually like even that, like you've given me some of your time. We've sat down and you've showed me some stuff on YouTube. I'm like, okay, great, and I hit 400 this week, which I was excited about. But you know what? And I think there's so much in that, and even listening to you talk about kindness and that type of person, and actually now creating a YouTube channel to help other people to be successful. Do you know what I mean? And that for me, loving what, so you tick all those boxes, right? Yeah. So not saying that we're all going to go and be monks and stuff and go like that, but for me, there's so much in that message around because we live in a comparison world where you're constantly going, oh, look at that person over there, and then look at that person over there. So we're constantly almost programmed to feel jealous of other people because I want that, what they've got, but actually. And also Hove's quite, it's not competitive, but it's quite well, you know, people generally have got quite established, let's say, so you're up against that all the time as well. So I definitely. And I guess especially as a single parent, I guess that period maybe. And I mean, I've still got debts to pay off and all that, but just the fact that I haven't had to do anything else now for that amount of time, and it's only going up and it's growing, and I know I'm going to be all right for the next few months as well. So it's just that, and I've got a proper following now. I've got to know some of them, you know, and then I also get the odd trolls as well, which comes with the territory. I do think social media should deal with that better. I think there should be more in place to deal with that. I think because with YouTube, you can't actually block people. You can only hide them from your channel. So what that means is you still see their messages. And I don't think, you know, if someone's going to be consistently nasty, and I mean, I'm not just talking about a bit unpleasant criticism, I'm talking about personal attacks. If they're going to consistently do that, I think you should be able to block them. I wonder what that, like, obviously freedom of speech and all that, but I wonder whether like that, because of how damaging it can possibly be to people. I mean, you look at Caroline Flack or someone like that. Do you know what I mean? Like like to the point where people are killing themselves. Like, what does that look like in regards? And I don't know the answer to this, but as an actual criminal offence, like what would that be? Like someone posting stuff on someone's social media. How does that look? I think it does. I think it can fall under harassment, because I did actually look it up, because there was one woman who I've had to contact personally and send her a letter, and basically I used ChatGPT to work the letter together. But I basically said, if you carry on, I'm actually going to report you for harassment, because every time
she comes on the channel, she says something, she's done it over and over and over again. I'm like, right, I've clocked you, and I'm not doing this anymore. The cut and paste response I usually go out isn't working, and you're clearly not getting the message. So you need to know this is a serious offence. And I think it falls under harassment. I think it falls under harassment.
It should,
but there should be more.
Well, I had a guy on here called Tim Chase, who he's set up a social media platform called Striver, which is zero. They use AI, and it is a zero abuse policy on there. So it actually AI, before your post goes out, within seconds, AI reckon, and if there's anything that's abusive in any way, it doesn't allow it to go out, and it bans it.
Oh, right.
So but he's up to get against some real challenges even in that sense. But that, for me, like, he's engaged a lot of footballers and stuff. So Roberto Carlos and Gilberto Silva are part of his team. Like, Gilberto Silva is his business partner. Brazilian World Cup winners, right? Amazing that he's got them on board. But they've entered into the sporting arena because some of the footballers are on there, because it's great for them, because they can go on and they can engage. It's about fan engagement. They can really engage with fans and know that they're not going to get abused if they've had a crap game at the weekend.
I know a
or whatever.
comedian who gets loads of abuse, actually, and she was the person who inspired me to respond to it in the way that I respond to it, because the abuse she gets is horrific. So yes, it's just. Yeah.
So again, it's back to what we were talking about before, right? Don't do that. Just come from a place of kindness. If you ain't got anything nice to say,
Exactly.
I say it to the kids. You ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can't. But I guess a couple of things really, like, it's so inspiring to see, and I'm great that you're going to be part of the International Women's Day feature this year, right?
No,
as well, like, just because it's going to be so cool to see. And then actually, when I looked at it, because it was 2023 that you was last involved in that, so in 2 years, like, what's happened in that time? And like you said, but getting to that point when, and I guess that point where I'd love to just go back to when I saw it, I think at an event, and you was like, I'm having to do caring, when you sort of like, obviously a low.
And that wasn't
point.
that long ago.
No,
it was only 18 months ago.
So, but what then? I guess a couple of things. One, that mindset again. Back to that mindset. What gets you through that period to go, I'm going to stick with this? Is it just self-belief, or what?
I felt like I had no choice. I don't think I had any choice. I've not got no choice but to always work and bring money in the door, because there's no saviour to keep us going. And I was finding TV and film it was getting me down so much. I would almost feel dread when I was going into work every morning. I'd feel like a real deep-seated anxiety going in. So I think when I was doing the caring, there were aspects to that. It's not paid enough for what you do, but there were aspects to that I actually enjoyed, in the sense that I would talk to these people who had already lived through life, and who were, some of the conversations I had were really wise women, and I quite enjoyed that part of it. And I think with anything, I was just looking at it like I needed to do something, and I liked the idea of that, because I liked the idea of helping people at that stage of life, because I always think, like my nan, before she died, she was so wise, and I miss that. So I got that out of it, but I was also looking for something which would fit in with me still building this business. And I think the reason why I believed in it was because of the feedback that I'd got with the clients that I had actually worked with. So I knew it was a case of me just finding more of them, and that's just the famous thing, isn't it? You just find more of them. But now I feel like I have, and I'm now building a tiny membership on YouTube. It's very small. I've only got about 26 members, I think it is now, but I only launched it about 6 weeks ago. And they're literally just giving me $5 a month, and I just come on live once a month, and so they get that little bit more interaction. And some of them have then come on and bought more personal packages. So I think it was just a case of partly what scares the life out of me, if I'm honest, absolutely scares the life out of me, is being in my 80s or something and still renting a property. That scares the life out of me, because
Why?
Because you can get kicked out at any point. And just the thought of being in a position where you're vulnerable to somebody else's choices at that age scares the life out of me. It really, really worries me. So I think it was that, holding on to that, and also I knew that even though that business I was starting wasn't earning me enough, I felt it could potentially earn me a lot more and get me out of that hole. So when some would say, "Oh, but you're not earning very much. You would earn more working in a shop or something like that." I thought, well, the shop, that's all. No disrespect to that job, but that's not going to increase. It's not going to get to where I want it to go. And I honestly feel like this could grow and get me somewhere. And I feel like I'm on the first rug now. I've kind of got to the point now where I can live off it. I need to take it to the next stage now where I can clear all my debts and actually put some behind me, because that's the plan. It's like I say, Lila's 19, going to university September. It's starting to think about me now and my future. So I think that was the drive. It was me thinking about me again and my future after spending quite a long time really prioritising someone else, as rightly I should. But now it's started to think about where I need to go. And I knew that I could, with TV and film, I would burn out, I'd end out a wreck. It was all that I'd done for a long time. So I needed to transfer those skills somewhere else. And anything else would never earn me enough to get out of that hole. So I had to, I don't see, I kind of knew, and I still think it's going to grow more as well.
100. I mean, just them numbers are phenomenal. And look, I just listened to a podcast on Stephen Bartlett's with Mr. Beast. I don't know if you heard, but
he's partly in that book, isn't he?
Yeah. And you just from 11 years old, this guy, and I mean, like, listening to his story is incredible. But like, he's all in, and he's a billionaire, and it's ridiculous. But actually, just showing that. And this is the beauty of YouTube and content creation. That's why it's so fascinating to me. Like, content creation, like, you just find something that you love doing and you're passionate about, and it's just then trying to find your audience. Right, once you've found that, whatever that looks like, it could be that audience is 1,000 people, but they're really an engaged 1,000 people, and then you can monetize it. But also, like, it could be 1 billion people, and then you want a different,
and they might not be who you think they're going to be as well.
Was that, like, I'd love to, like, anyone listening that's thinking about content creation, thinking about setting up that YouTube channel, what advice would you give to them? Someone starting out today, I'm going to start out today, what advice do you say?
Okay, so if you've got a business and you're trying to promote that business, if you already know who your customer is, then that's great. You're at a great starting point, because you can just talk to that customer. So talk to who that person is. The biggest thing, if you haven't, is to properly niche down. So niche right down. So I found out that my demographic was mainly female, certain age group. Then I looked at their pain points, and there's certain kind of triggers that seem to where the videos do quite well. So the first thing is find your niche, and definitely niche down like that. Second thing is you can use VidQ and TubeBuddy. You can use the free versions of those, which is what I do. That's what I showed you as well, wasn't it? And there's that book as well, the YouTube. What is it? The book I can't remember now off the top of my head what it's called. YouTube Formula. I think it is YouTube Formula. Daryl Eves. That's a really good book to get you started as well. Use VidQ and TubeBuddy for helping you decide what titles you use, because the titles are really important. I always put a link to a free download. So I have essentially a sales funnel. Believe me, I knew nothing about sales funnels, marketing, niches, none of this stuff. I just knew about clothes 5 years ago, and building websites. I've had to learn the whole bloody lot. But so, essentially you've got a funnel. So you go from video to a link to, in my case, they have a free consultation with me. That's when I kind of maybe sell them one of my services. Or what you could do is have a free download. I've got that as well, which is just, it's like a capsule wardrobe guide they can download and fill out. That then gets them on my email list, so then I'm talking to them every week. So those kind of things, have those kind of links in your description on each of your videos. You can set it up as well so that you can have like a cut and paste part of your description, so that it just automatically goes into every video. Break it up. People's attention span is like nothing anymore. So I've only learnt this really recently, because I was going to work with, I probably shouldn't say the name, but I was going to work with a big person who does YouTube, and I had this like discovery call with them, and they gave me a little nugget of information which I've now tweaked myself. And that is, I always used to start my video by going, hi, my name's Michelle Barrett. I've been a personal stylist 25 years, blah, 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 blah. And what they said is, start the video with what the pain point is. So I now start and I go, oh, you know, so you've all told me that you really enjoyed that video when I did those outfit formulas. So now I've created one for you, which is all for spring. So, so from clients, I know that you have this problem with decluttering. You don't know where, so that's what this video is about. So you start it straight away. This is what this is about. Then I go into, my name's Michelle, blah, blah, blah. Then I always say, please like, subscribe, share, because that genuinely helps me keep this channel going, because it does. Because the more they share and they like it and they comment, it tells the algorithm that it's interesting. So break the video up. I use little inserts. The other thing is, at the moment, I don't spend a penny on it. It takes me ages. I do the whole thing on iMovie. I know that's really 1993, but I've gone from 1,200 to 31,000 subscribers in whatever it is, 9 months or something, whatever it is. So it's at the moment it's working. I am going to probably invest money in getting something better, but at the moment that's what I'm using. I have little inserts in between. So let's say it's 10 reasons your capsule wardrobe isn't working. So number 1 will be blah, blah, blah. So I have a little insert saying number 1, whatever the title is, and I go to the next bit. I think it keeps engagement, because you want engagement as much as possible. You can have little cards coming up once you get to 1,000 subscribers. You can have little cards coming up which also can have links on them. You can have your end screens as well, which have links to your website or whatever services you do. So definitely put all of that in. But I think just really watch it. So really watch it. Consistency is massive. Everyone always says this consistency is massive. So decide.
And how, from consistency point of view, how consistent was you? Was it once a month, once a week, once a day?
So before when I was just had the YouTube channel there, I tried to put out a few sort of like every so whatever. But since May, I've been every week. I did test twice a week. I didn't notice a massive increase in monetary value to do that, and it put a lot of pressure on me to then pull out 2 videos a week. So I've decided to pull back to just once a week. Some people do a lot more than that, and they're long form as well. Some people do better in short form videos, like like shorts. But the trouble is with shorts is that I think, now what I've also heard, and something I'm probably going to work towards as well, I've also heard that shorts can be quite good to show a snippet to your audience of what your next long form video is going to be about. So that would be brilliant in your case. But I've not really started doing that. I just go, oh look, I put this pretty dress on with this top, and I just do that. Sometimes they engage, sometimes they don't. So I've only mainly done long form, and with short form as well. What you need to know is, because there's not much space to put adverts in, you need to be getting into the millions of views, make any money from short form videos. So break them up. But the main thing is just really watch the analytics. So I saw one video that took off, and it was literally over 60s capsule wardrobe. That was it, the title for it. Now, nobody in a million years would think that that was particularly interesting, but clearly a lot of people did. And that triggered everything. So then I watched the age group. You can see the age group of who's watching, where they are, what sort of time they're online as well. So make sure you schedule it at the same time every week, so they expect it. The other thing that's quite good to do as well is do lives. I did a live series recently. Then you're really engaging.
Is that comfortable, uncomfortable? How do you?
I think, well, I did it for, if you think, that was what I did right in the beginning on Facebook when I first did it, and I was like, oh yeah, talking like I don't know what I was, but now me doing it this year didn't feel that bad, because I speak to the audience quite a lot. So that's the other thing as well. Reply to every comment. Reply and engage to every comment. That is a huge one, because then they feel listened to. They feel like you'll respond to them. Even the ones that are a bit nasty or whatever, I still reply to every comment. So that's a huge bit. But yeah, so but when I did the live recently, because I did like a series again, a capsule wardrobe challenge again, I kind of went back to the roots. And then I had like about 102 people on live. So that was new, because I'd not had that many people on live. But I think because what I was seeing was coming up in the comments was people who'd interacted with me before. So I sort of feel like I know them a little bit. And then the funny thing is, this is the other thing you've got to be really prepared for, is now what happens is when they come on a discovery call for me to talk to me about my personal services, I'd say about 70% of them, the first thing they'll say is, oh my God, it's really weird talking to you, which is really funny for me because they've just been binge watching my videos for like how many minutes.
Now they're seeing you.
Yeah, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're talking to me. And I'm like, why? But so yeah, there's that aspect as well. But I think just interact, watch the analytics, see what age they are, where they're from, what they click on, how long they watch the videos for, and then gear it towards that. What you'll find is you'll put out some videos that you think are going to do well and they'll just tank, and then you'll put out another one and it will do really well and you'll think, why does that one do well? So look at it, and I often find the ones in the title that do really well, the ones that mention a particular, maybe it's usually like 3 different aspects. So it might be like an age group, it might be a problem, and then it might be the solution, like all in that one thing. And sometimes it's a title that's a little bit provocative as well, like 10 reasons why these styles are aging you, or something like that, which I don't believe in. You can tell that by what I'm wearing today. But so as soon as I get onto the video, I sort of say, I don't really believe in this, but what these things will probably do is make you feel more inspired and make you feel better about yourself and more vibrant. So I do it in a very kind way. I think my delivery is always about looking after people, and I always encourage them as well to compliment each other. Go out and compliment a stranger today, and little things like that gets a lot of interaction as well. People like that, so that kind of personal side to it. But yeah, so sometimes it's about having a little trigger that makes them click, that's a little bit provocative, but then delivering in a way that they can relate to, and they feel like they'll say to me that they want to work with me because I trust you. So it builds
no, like
trust.
And trust. Yeah. No, like and trust is key to any business, I guess. Yeah.
And so that's what you've got to build up. So just watch it, and and then just sort of see what happens. I mean, I'm trying to go for 100,000 now.
Wow, I can't wait, and I have no doubt you'll get there. But I know when you get to 100,000, I think you get like a little thing from YouTube.
You do. You get a
like
plaque. I'm actually talking to a lady.
So excited! That's going to be the front cover of SBT.
Yeah, yes.
You standing there with your 100,000, 100%. That's going to happen. I'm telling
Brilliant.
you. You heard it here. You heard it here first. 100%.
I've got to speak to a woman actually later today about collaborating with her, because I wanted to collaborate with a makeup artist who had a similar demographic, and she's got something like 136,000 subscribers on YouTube. Amazing. So, and she's really excited about doing it and wants me to go on her channel. So that could be interesting, because that could actually change things quite a lot as well.
Sure, honestly, I'm so. I still remember being at BBC and you come up and told me when this first started kicking, and I genuinely from the bottom of my heart, I'm just so excited for you, and and no one I know deserves it more. Honestly, I know I've seen you, like you say, I guess at some low points as well as and to just sit there and celebrate, and then sit here opposite you now and see where you're going, and grateful for your time of helping me as well with what I'm doing. Just honestly, your story is so inspiring, and I know anyone listening it will inspire, and I can't wait to share it again, obviously in the magazine as well, and the other stuff we're doing, because it is you're a real beacon of hope, I think, for people as well. I think
that's the thing though, is like when I was in that space, I was so unhappy that I had no time or energy to give. Because I just felt unhappy with my own situation. So I kind of did feel jealous of people who were successful, but not in a way that I would show it, but I couldn't give. I was just desperate to get somewhere, so it's like, and I don't like being in that place. It's horrible being in that place.
But now you're out, and you've got yourself out of that, and now you are there, and you are giving, and you're helping people.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's a beautiful thing, and I think there's something. But I just want to, as we're coming towards the end, I want to go like where you are now, and what all the stuff that you've learned over your career. If you could go back and speak to a younger Michelle, what would you say to her?
God, stop trying to prove yourself. Just stop trying to prove yourself. maybe to people who don't appreciate it, and just concentrate on where your good points are and where your strong points are, and don't give up, because anything is possible. You know, you can get in Liz Teller's party with a pair of pants if you want to. Like, literally, it was a pair of knickers to get in her party. So, you know, but yeah, and I think that's what I think when I look at those things. I wish I could have taken that sort of energy with me, that sort of excitement energy with me the whole time of like anything is possible. Just give it a go and just see what happens. But don't, you know, and don't get caught up into people not valuing you. I wasn't valued in the last few years I worked in TV. I just wasn't valued, not on every job, but on a few of them. And now I feel valued again. So that's important, that you're valued, what you do.
Brilliant. That should be the title of it. How to get in Liz Taylor's party.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, it's that's brilliant. I think the two key messages to take from that is exactly that. Anything's possible, but don't give up. And you're living proof, right, of not to give up, because I'm sure many times over the last 2 years or so, you've gone, you know what, when you're getting 10 views and you're thinking, and then all of a sudden you're just living proof that it. And I'm always a big believer in hope, and I want these conversations to inspire hope, because sometimes wherever we are, especially from a mental health point of view, or wherever we are in our lives, and we're maybe struggling, and people out there that listening, being able to share brilliant stories like yours and inspirational stories like yours gives people hope, and that's what I hope that I know that it will do. And
it's amazing. I totally agree with you, because I think that's what's good about. That's the other thing. The bit of advice I give people as well is say go business networking, because although you might be up against, you might think everybody in that room is more successful than you. They'll be kind. They'll understand how hard it is. They'll understand the struggle, and through those difficult times is when you'll have somebody who will get it, and nobody else around you might not get it. Like, I don't think everyone's, oh yeah, that's nice, you're building a lovely but how's that going to work? As a person, it's like, that's nice, you know. But I knew I was determined that I could do it. So I think when you're in that environment, people go, oh yeah, they might not understand what you're doing, but they get that kind of entrepreneurial idea. So that's another big thing. Find a really good business networking community as well.
And I might just happen to know one or two, so give me a shout, and links in the podcast after. Yeah. I'm very excited because as we've come to the end, this is going to be the first episode. I'm going to start a new tradition on the podcast. Okay, so I've had my new by the print lord himself. I've had some very exciting storytelling cards. Now we use these at our top table events, and I'm a big believer in sharing stories and building connection. But so I've got 52 cards here, so I'm going to ask you to pick one and then give it to me, and I'm going to read out the question. They've all got different questions. Is it one for each week then of the year? There is one. So on my passing it. So this is your card. I don't know what the question is, and you don't know what it is. So here we go. We're going to give it a go. Okay. Think of a leap of faith you once took. What gave you the courage, and how did it shape your journey?
Oh, I've got a few of them. Leap of faith. I think it was last year, really, starting, when this YouTube channel started to take off, and I buttoned down the hatches and decided that I was going to carry with it and keep going with it. And I've actually been offered costume jobs this year and passed them on for other people, even knowing that I would earn more during that time with a costume job than I would with what I'm earning now. But I believe that eventually, at Christmas, December, for the first time, I earned the same as a costume job. So that's the first time ever that's happened. So, but, most of the year I did get offered jobs, and I turned my sort of gaze away thinking, am I making the right decision? Am I making the right decision? But yes, I think it was that, because I have nobody else to support me, and I've got to support a teenager as well. So it's not just me I'm thinking about. So it's a leap of faith in that it will carry on. And I like I say, I'm it's keeping going. It's not dropped off yet. So I'm carrying on, and now I want to go for subscribers. So yeah, I think it's that. I think that's the best sort of leap of faith. I mean, you could say things like, you know, going off to Cannes and just turning up on people's doorsteps going, hi, I do costume and things like that, which I used to do years ago. Could be that, but I think this is bigger because there's more responsibility. Then I was free and single and would do what the hell I liked, but now it's more responsibility. So I think, yeah, it was then. It was, and also it's funny how what I don't think I mentioned properly earlier, it's funny how the universe works, because had I carried on doing that costume job last year till June, I never would have put those 2 YouTube videos out that then triggered everything. So the universe went, no, why are you not listening to me? This job and this career isn't for you anymore. So I'm going to boot you out in the worst way possible so that you absolutely hate it. And then you come back and you kind of look at this, which I've been trying to show you for ages, and then you do it. And because if that, I hadn't, because I wouldn't put those videos out. And so I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. So I think it was that.
Brilliant answer. Wow. I don't know, listen, just please continue what you're doing, continue inspiring people, and certainly as you do inspire me. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. I'm very excited to be here.
And that, as they say, is a wrap.
Yay!